Hello friends, for today's video we're going to be chatting through the second half of Attack on Titan's second season. Before jumping into the specifics of these episodes, I do want to talk about the reveal that happened, as some of the events that happened in this batch sort of informed my views of that reveal. And if you need a reminder or if you didn't see, I was talking about how when Raynor just starts telling Eren about them being Titans, and I was sort of wondering, is this a really brilliant way to have this information delivered because it's so unexpected? Because most of the time you start to build. So I kind of respected it for being so blunt, you could say, with how it was delivered to you and Eren and all the characters. But at the same time, I also pondered, is this just a little lazy? Did we have to cut something? Because it seems so abrupt. But because we learn within this batch that Raynor's mind is almost fractured as a way of coping with what he's done and how he can't really face everything that he is, I think that this makes so much more sense now. Even though it felt random at the time, I think that obviously he has glimpses of who he is, and then he seems to forget, and then he seems to really believe that he is just this scout, and I'll get to more of that when we get to that episode within this discussion. But as a result of learning that information about Raynor, this is an example of a time where my initial reaction has shifted into something different. Now I really respect that decision as it is true to the character and what he's going through. You just don't know at the time what he's going through, but you also just don't know anything. I'm still waiting until I feel like we have a firmer grasp on what's even going on. And with all that said, we'll go ahead and jump into the episodes themselves, and then we're going to do some theory time at the end of the video, which I'm actually really excited about. But episode 32 is titled Close Combat. I definitely think that this story has a way of giving you just enough information and just enough of the characters for you to care, but also be clueless. And so anytime that people are pitted against each other, you don't really have a side that you're on. You could almost argue you're on Eren's side because he's the main character and he, like you, also doesn't know what's going on, but you are just thinking there's definitely more there, and I don't want to, one, ruin the chance to get more information, but two, I don't want these characters to be hurt because they're obviously already grappling with something internally and we just don't know what that is. But man, I feel so strongly. Is it strange to say I almost feel worse for... I shouldn't say I feel worse. I was going to say I feel worse for Raynor and Berthold and Annie and all these characters who have shown themselves to be Titans, but seemingly on another side different from Eren. So there's a part of me that wants to say I feel worse for them because clearly they're so incredibly conflicted. But I'm like, well, Eren had to watch his mom get eaten and horrific things and horrific acts of violence nonstop, it feels like, for years. So, not for years. There have been events that have happened over the course of his life. But I don't want to try to have a ranking of who has it worse. I just feel bad for all of them. I just want things to work out, and I don't know what's going on. The animation is so cool with the Colossal Titan. So there's a part where they start going after the Colossal Titan while Eren is fighting the Armored Titan, and the animation is fantastic. It ends pretty quick because he basically just starts steaming himself and then they all have to back off. But it's so satisfying when they start trying to go after him. For some reason, I get taken aback by just how massive the Colossal Titan really is. Which is it's stupid. It's a stupid thing to be taken aback by. But anyway, in this section, when they're all getting ready to fight, some of the scouts tell the ones that don't have their equipment, hey, get out of here, you don't have your equipment, get to safety, and Connie's one of them. And then Connie turns around and he's like, hey, Berthold and Raynor don't have their equipment either, can you look out for them? And I wrote, oh no, he didn't see. I was so sad for Connie, because he's so sweet, and he's kind of silly, and I really like all these characters. And the idea that he wants to make sure they're okay, but they're right there in front of them causing all this trouble. I was like, oh, this poor guy. I wrote, the MMA fighting is great. I really liked the incorporation of more actual fighting techniques into the fight, the Titan on Titan fight, the Armored Titan versus Eren. I thought that was really cool because in the past, you know, we've seen when he's fighting Annie, there's this obvious, oh, I'm recognizing her move. The fact that they actually incorporated these elements into the fight was really, I thought, it just kind of shows the attention to detail that has gone into having these. It's not just you punch, I punch, although it started that way. It started with just Aaron getting annihilated multiple times and then not being able to move, basically. And then it segued into him trying to strategize. And I really appreciated that because I feel like sometimes the strategizing within fights is missing, or it's most of the fight is just the character tries to slash an enemy and then they sit back and think for a really long time, like, they're so fast, they're so quick, how am I ever gonna, and it's, then they go again and it's a lot of internal monologue, and then they go again and it's internal monologue about how they're so fast, they're so powerful. And I appreciate that while yes, there is some thinking through, it's like we think through and we come up with a plan and then we attempt to execute it, and I just find that they don't actually shy away from the fight itself. It's a combination of the thoughts that they're having while also trying to execute based off of what they're learning within the fight. It makes it feel more realistic, in my opinion. After that, I wrote, Hanji's dream is coming true before her eyes, because Hanji is talking to Eren and she's trying to tell him, like, we need to get you, they're going to try to take you, try to not get involved in the fight anymore. And then he just looks at her because she's on his shoulder, and then he nods, and then she's like, ah, her cheeks get all red. And I thought that was super funny. She's just been trying to talk to them for so long and understand them and have them understand her. And that's why I wrote her dream is coming true. I love her so much. I love so many of these characters. Ugh. And then I wrote, yeah, Mikasa, because, you know, it's Mikasa and she's awesome constantly. The last couple of things I wrote at the very end of the episode, even though Mikasa has slashed the armored titan's legs and it would seem Eren has the advantage, the Titan, Rainer, I don't want to think about it, he's pushing Eren over to where Berthold is as the Colossal Titan, and you see him yelling, getting his attention. And at first I was wondering if the Colossal Titan was going to somehow try to break the wall so that sunlight would hit any potential Titans that are within it, but that's not what happened. I wrote, oh, is the Colossal Titan gonna break the walls as sunlight comes through? And then immediately he just slumps over and falls on them, and I put, oh no, I guess not. So I was wrong about what they were planning. That segues us into episode 33, which is called The Hunters. And I wrote for the first episode, I wrote 5 stars next to the episode. They were all so good. All of these episodes were great. This show has shown, both for the first season and the second, that it's not that they have rocky starts by any means. It's that I really feel that they are pushing toward this last chunk, because the whole section with Annie at the end of season 1 was so good. It's just you had more work that you had to establish within the first season, because you have to introduce people to the characters. You have to show them, especially because there's so much time transpiring, you have to show them leveling up, basically, and you have to show them gaining more knowledge about Titans, learning how to fight Titans, use their equipment, use their gear, and then still the bloodbath that occurs when Titans actually show up. You have to show the stakes. You have so much groundwork that you have to lay. So I really applaud that they were able to do all of that and get you so emotionally invested that the last chunk was really hard-hitting. And then they did pretty much the same thing that I just described as far as making you feel so connected with this second season in such a short amount of time, only 12 episodes, not even that long of episodes. And I do feel like they fell too much on, I said this last week, and I still think this is probably my only criticism of the season, honestly, because the rest of the season, there's nothing. I can't think of a single other thing that has been something that I might pick at if I'm being really honestly super picky. But that whole, they start the episode, it's action-packed, or they had just ended an episode with something interesting and intriguing, and then they go to a certain amount of hours earlier. They did that 3 times in the first 6 episodes. Then they didn't really do that at all within this last chunk. It was just race to the finish line, making you care even more, making you even more curious. So I just am applauding the show for how well they're able to do that, and the story itself. Anyway, so the Hunters. I said, who was the other person they took besides Ymir? Unless I'm misremembering, when they see they've grabbed Eren, and I thought they'd grab Ymir and someone else, because I could have sworn one of the characters says, and they got someone else, and maybe it was just some random person and it means nothing. But I'm like, is there another character that we have to look out for? Is there going to be another one, turns out, is among their ranks and we just don't know it? I feel like there's something there, unless I'm just wrong and there's just a person that happened to get caught by the Colossal Titan on accident. I don't know. I feel like there was a third person and I don't know who it was. I also thought, because you see Raynor as a Titan, he rips out the nape so that they can get to Eren, but it also kind of seemed like he immediately healed. And I know that the Titans do heal, but it almost seemed like he might have ingested some of that and then healed quicker. So I still feel like there's something to the eating of flesh and its contribution to rejuvenation. But maybe it was just a simple, he just tried to get him out. Plenty of Titan expeditions outside the walls. So this is a quote by Levi. I might have paraphrased a little bit there. I don't know if I got the exact quote. But you see Levi, because he's injured. I told my husband, side note, I was like, they're saving Levi, because we got glimpses of how awesome he is. And I feel like all of this season's just kind of like, Levi's just going to lay low. And then he's going to be unleashed in seasons 3 and 4, or maybe season 4. I don't know, but he's going to be unleashed later because he's the best and we all know it and we just haven't really seen it. But anyway, he's talking to the military police. He's kind of having to babysit all these guys who are like, oh, it's just like so easy being a scout. And then he's like, well, you're welcome to go outside the wall. There's plenty of expeditions. And everybody's like, I mean, no. So I like that Levi, he doesn't talk much, but when he does, always packs a punch. And then, again, I did this last week, so I'm just throwing a bunch of stuff out there. But I put, is Armin secretly royalty or will become royalty or something? I mean, I don't know. But I just feel like Krista, obviously, we have learned, is royalty. And Krista has certain features. She has very, very, very blue eyes and then obviously light blonde hair. And Armin kind of does too. And we don't really know anything about Armin's family. We know that his grandpa, it would seem, died. And also we're told his parents maybe died. But I think they went outside the wall. Is there a connection to Armin in the church somehow? And now I'm like, which that would also make sense, and that would still fit with this if Armin is secretly royalty somehow. I don't know. I think I have another Armin theory in here somewhere. If I do, we'll get to it. And then Hans. Okay. Hans, as soon as he's like, oh, we gotta get them, he's pumping up Mikasa and Armin and kind of talking through their pasts with them and the fact that, oh, you 3 kids, it was always the 3 of you. He was always running off and getting into trouble and reminiscing with them. And he's trying to lift their spirits. And I'm like, I wrote, he's gonna die. And I was right. I didn't want to be right, but I knew I was, because I was like, our death count's pretty low this season compared to last season. And also they've made us care a little bit more, so they're gonna take them away from us. Anyway, so episode 34. Episode 34 is titled Opening, and I put Hanshi wants to investigate Rogoko, I believe is the village's name, and I wrote good, because I need them to realize that all of those people turned into Titans. And then I put can't move at night, but didn't the tower get attacked by Titans at night? Full moon, maybe? Ymir asked too. Some clarification about this note. They're all, by they, I mean Raynor, Bert Holt, Ymir, and Eren are just hanging out in the woods, and they know that they're probably going to be pursued, and they're trying to come up with a plan, and the plan involves them waiting until night, and there are Titans around them, and it would seem obviously certain Titans are less intelligent, or they can control themselves less than these 4, and so they still have to deal with the idea of the Titans attacking them, So they're thinking, we'll wait till nightfall because then the Titans can't move. And I was like, am I stupid? It wasn't at nighttime at the tower? And then Ymir immediately asked, and then they didn't really address it. So I was like, okay, there's another one that we don't know. But hence my wondering, was it a full moon? Or is it something to do with the moon? Because obviously it's something to do with sunlight. The moon reflects the sun. I mean, we all know how that works. So I think maybe there's something there. Or it has to do with, I don't know. That's my only theory about that. Something to do with the moon. And then I just put poor Raynor. When he starts being like, do you think I'll get a promotion? I think we deserve promotions. And Eren, in Eren typical fashion, as he's wont to do, he's just like, what? And he just starts yelling, because, it's Eren. And then Raynor's like, why are you upset? And I'm just like, no, this is sad. And Bertholdt's just sitting there. And I'm like, dude, open your mouth and explain, please, okay? This is sad. And we need some explanations. And I want Raynor to not feel so bad about whatever's happened, because obviously Aaron's over here like, you're the most despicable people ever to have existed. And Ymir's just thinking, Krista. These two are over here with information that I want to know more about. I just want Raynor to have some peace and happiness. I need Raynor and Bertholdt and Aaron to somehow become buds again, because I don't feel that they were in their right minds. I don't feel like they meant it. I don't want to think they meant it. Episode 35, though, children. Once again, who is the other person they took? I really was like, I swear they took another person, but we already covered that. I also was really amused when Aaron's like, I'll cooperate, and then Raynor comes over to tie him up, and then he just starts like wailing on him with what is currently left of his arms. They're healing. And he just like, die, 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 die. I thought it was funny. Anyway, I wrote, Ymir wandered for 60 years. So we get some flashbacks of Ymir's past, and it would seem when her and the other individuals that she tried to essentially sacrifice herself for, and they were killed too, which seemed very sad, but it seemed like they turned into Titans when they got kicked off the wall. And it didn't seem like the people that kicked them off the wall were all that surprised by that, but it didn't seem like it was that long ago. Shouldn't this be more... it just seems like the idea of humans turning into Titans isn't that shocking if not that long ago they were kicking people. Unless it was way longer. Well, it could have only... She said she wandered for 60 years, so I don't think it was that long ago. But maybe it's the people that are at the top, meaning literally the ones that were on the top of the wall kicking them, are a part of a group that do know, and then everybody else doesn't, but they don't see because of the walls. Then there's another part of me that's like, can people not turn into, obviously with the exceptions of people like Aaron and Annie, but is it something to do with like you can't turn into a Titan within the walls? Is there something to do with that? I don't think so. That's not a serious theory that I'm holding too strongly to, but I don't know. I don't know anything. I also, right after that, immediately had another theory that I think is wrong, but I wrote it down. So the very first episode is titled To You in 2,000 Years. And I wrote, maybe Aaron's dad wrote that letter and is that old, or someone else did. Maybe someone wrote, because there's like a narration, and it feels almost like, because it's to you, so it feels almost like a letter or something, a note left behind. Anyway, so I'm like, did Aaron's dad or did someone write this letter? And eventually we get to the basement and Aaron is reading it, and I found it, and his reading of it was after he found it in the basement, maybe at the end of the whole show. So I'm just wondering if this is like a full circle, that narration that we got in the first episode. Was it Aaron that read it? I'm trying to remember. I'm trying not to go back. I'm trying to just allow this to be an organic, I'm only watching through, and then I'm waiting to see. So I'm not letting myself go back and check, but whoever is talking to you, I'll sum up here really fast. I'm just wondering if there was somebody that was writing about events, and it seemed like they were writing about the events that are currently taking place, but really it was somebody in the past that wrote this, and then you're going to discover this, and it's going to be this full circle at the end of the show. I don't even know if what I'm saying, it makes sense in my head. I don't know if I'm making sense, though, right now. I have another theory, and we'll get to that at the end of the video. It has to do with Nephilim, which is pretty out there and specific, but I don't know. It adds up. Getting to episode 11 now, we have Charge. This was a great episode. I once again wrote 5 stars, even though they've all been great. But I wrote flowers because there's flowers everywhere. And then there's the quote, there's no future within the walls, which I thought was interesting. And then I put flowers over a waterfall. Because they seem to really be showing you flowers. And then I wrote, no, this is too sad, because this episode was so good. It's one of those where there's just so much going on all at once. So you see Raynor is running, and you have, or Raynor as the armored titan, excuse me. And then Bertholdt has Aaron, and Ymir got Krista, and she's on Raynor's shoulder, and they're running, and Erwin's leading this charge, and then all the other Titans are coming after them, and Erwin's also so cool, and he's like, we have to get them, this is all of humanity, and he's just giving this rallying speech, and I wrote, he's so cool. And then I wrote the music when Raynor charged was amazing. Ugh, when the beat and the tempo ends up kind of, so the beat ends up matching with the footfalls, and then it gets faster and faster, and so the tempo gets faster and faster, and it's all lined up, and then it all kind of comes together. The music is so good. I was losing it when Erwin, though, when he got bit and lost his arm and gets taken by that one I hate, the one that runs around on all fours. I think it was that one that bit him, right? And I was like, Erwin, no! And then to calm myself down, I was like, he'll get away. And then I wrote, yeah, he's alive, phew. And then I wrote flowers again. And then the one who ate his mom, let's go! So when that one shows up, what a good penultimate episode to have that one show up. And I was like, okay, it's about to go down. We knew it was coming too, right? We've been waiting. We know this one's going to show up. We know there's certain ones that are drawn distinctly enough that you recognize them. This one's been imprinted on Aaron's mind. It's been ingrained in us for the whole show, so I was like, oh my gosh, let's go. And also I was kind of like, where's Erwin? I need Erwin to stay alive. Then we get into the last episode. Also, I wrote 5 stars because it's so good. This one's titled Scream. I once again, this first note that I wrote is just me theorizing about literally anything. I wrote, it looks like Armin, it looks like Erwin, the one that's eating, that ate Aaron's mom. I noted that its eyes, I don't know, in certain frames looked kind of like Erwin, and in certain frames looked kind of like Armin, because I'm like, are they related? Is it Armin's mom? I don't know. It's probably nothing. It's probably just a Titan, but we'll see. And I wrote, will Aaron have to choose between Mikasa and revenge? No, not really. That it was fine. And then I wrote, oh, yeah, Hans. I kind of knew it was coming. It was still really sad. It was really sad. And when Aaron starts shouting about how he's still useless, how he can't do anything, how nothing's changed, I was like, no, that's not true. You've done a lot. I feel bad. It does remind me, I know I love Full Metal Alchemist, and I probably talk about it too much, but it does remind me because Aaron has a similar breakdown here as you see Edward have in Full Metal Alchemist. I won't say why or for what reasons, but I feel like Aaron is obviously angrier than Edward, which I didn't think was possible. Edward's a pretty angry boy. But these two, I feel like maybe they should sit down and talk to each other. I feel like they could relate to each other a lot. Aaron would just have to call Edward short at some point, though, and then it would all fall apart. That scene where he's breaking down and sobbing, and the voice actor does such a good job conveying his pain. But then when he has that awesome punch, and I wrote, Aaron can control them? And then they all, it was so satisfying. It was so cool. It was so good. And when they all go for that one, I was like, yes! It was the best to have that one taken down by other Titans, even though I don't really understand what happened. But everybody else didn't really understand. They're like, well, I guess we should go. And then Erwin was fine. I was like, okay, good. Erwin's still good. And Mikasa and Aaron have that really sweet moment also. In the middle of a field of flowers, I still need to know what the flowers mean. I don't know what they mean. You see them go back, and Jean, who I didn't mention before, but there's been a lack of Jean this whole season, and then he showed up, which I liked, and he's still his typical self, and his typical self is just so like, you idiot, all the time, which I enjoy. And him and Armin are telling Aaron that they have this theory, because Armin's kind of there to give you information. That's sort of his purpose at the moment. And he's like, I think that you controlled them. I swear I saw that spark of color at another point in the show, and I cannot remember when, and I'm sad. Maybe it was just in one of the intros, meaning the beginnings when the music plays and everything. Maybe it was just something in that. I don't know. I feel like it's shown up in a scene, and I just don't know when. Last thing that I have written is, it's his dad, it's his dad, it's his dad. I'm almost positive that's his dad. I don't know with certainty, but I'm like, dude, did I call it? I think I called it. So I think it's his dad, because, I mean, I already kind of had an inclination toward believing it was his dad, because that particular Titan, the Beast Titan, it just seemed so knowledgeable, and I'm like, who else seems mysterious and knowledgeable? Aaron's dad. Who else have we not seen in a really long time? Aaron's dad. Who else is a man who wears glasses in this show? Aaron's dad. But I thought his dad was not blonde. I thought his dad had brown hair, so maybe it's not his dad. Maybe I'm getting really excited over nothing. Perhaps I am incorrect here. I think it's his dad. Or it's just a person. It's just another person in the show. I think it's his dad. I'm holding to this theory. But speaking of theories, let's get into the Nephilim theory here. I'm going to read, for those of you who don't know, maybe you do, maybe you've watched the show and maybe this is actually really relevant and you're like, yeah, we know. Or maybe you haven't, I don't know. But if you don't know even what Nephilim are, because it's kind of an obscure thing, they're supposedly giants they were fallen angels who had relations with ladies, and then they had children, and then the children were the Nephilim. So it says, they bear great giants whose height are 300 ells, who consumed all of the acquisitions of men, and when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind, and mankind? And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. And this reminds me of Mikasa when you see her backstory and you see like the birds and the grasshoppers and the butterflies or whatever random things they show. And also, I think that you get glimpses of animals in the intro and outro, potentially. And there's a lot of religious symbolism within the show. It might just be pertinent to the show. It might not be inspired even a little bit by anything within our world. There just might be some things that feel related because sometimes there's overlap between different stories or different lore. So anyway, there was that, which I was like, okay, that seems kind of similar. And then I did some more digging. And there's a few other things. One I wrote down. So in the book of Enoch, it says, it tells of the animal apocalypse, and there's a quote that I wrote down: before the flood, humanity is represented as cattle, which I thought was interesting because Aaron is constantly like, we're just livestock, we're gonna get eaten, we're just cattle, we're just livestock, and he keeps using words that feel similar to that. Also, within Ymir's backstory, they keep talking about blood of the king. And I did write a few things down here that I didn't address before. I said they took communion to the next level. They lived underground to prevent turning into titans, ? Is that why they were underground? Because they wanted that immortality, but they didn't want to actually turn into titans? Returning to this theory, though, and then kind of connecting it potentially to Krista and the whole royal bloodline and the church's obsession with the royal bloodline. It seems like Ymir seems concerned about it, too. So there's another note that I found where it says, in the 12-tablet version of the story, the gods, literally those of royal lineage, are giant Nephilim-like malevolent creatures who menace humanity. And then the last thing I wrote, this, again, maybe this has nothing to do with anything, and this is completely pointless, but I'm enjoying the potential parallels here. It says, it is thought these beings attempted to thwart God's plans to send Jesus Christ the Redeemer to reestablish humanity's right relationship with God by compromising the bloodline that flows from Adam to Noah to Abraham to David to Jesus. The thought is that by interrupting this pure bloodline, they could stop the coming of the Messiah. This view strongly aligns with the thought that fallen angels became demons and now work in many ways to oppress God's people and plan. The offspring of the union between the sons of God and the daughters of men, the Nephilim, are a separate and distinct race, different from the humans mentioned. So there just seems to be a lot of parallels with, I wrote, are they trying to thwart the bloodline Krista? Is that why they're so obsessed with Krista? Is there something there? Because it seems like the church really is consumed with ensuring, like, we got to keep an eye on Krista. But they seem like they want to pull Krista from there. And I'm just so curious as to why. Is there something with that? Is it like they're a part of this important bloodline? And, I mean, obviously they must be to some degree. Otherwise, what's the point of even deciding that they have royalty? So they must be distinct in some fashion, in some way, in their society. But as to why that relates to the Titans, I do not know. It's frustrating me. Anyway, I feel like that was just all interesting and a fun little really out there theory time. I don't literally think this show is like, so let's actually explore what would have happened if the Nephilim were real. I don't know that that's what I actually think is going on here. I just think that there are elements to those little pieces of that seem somewhat similar to what's transpiring in this show, and maybe shed some light on what's to come. Maybe. I don't know. It's just really cool. Maybe is this like a version of the animal apocalypse? I don't know. I don't know anything. I think that's all it comes down to. I don't know anything. But I've really enjoyed this season. Let's get back to actually talking about things that happened and that we know. I thought Rainer's sort of breakdown and this conundrum he finds himself in, it just seems so devastating. And I feel so bad at the idea that he genuinely cares about these people and he wants to think of himself as just a soldier, a scout. And every time that he's kind of snapped out of it by the magic word, when Bertholdt's like, no, you're a warrior, which I still don't know what that means, I'm just like, let him believe his fantasy, Bertholdt. I almost don't want him to know what he is, because I just want him to have peace in his mind, because he seems like a sweetheart. Aaron actually kind of took a back seat in this season, and I don't think that was a bad thing, because there's just so many characters that have so much to them that's really interesting, that I think it's good that we're allowing those characters to have time to shine, or to get some tiny little bit of spotlight for half a second and then us be sad about it. I didn't address the very end of the season, only because I feel like it was somewhat obvious that they were humans, because you do see Connie comes in with his mother's photograph, and it looks very much like the Titan. We also see one of my favorite moments of the whole show, actually, is when Levi is so sad about and so somber about the fact that, are you telling me I've been killing humans this whole time? And then Erwin's over there smiling. He's like, what the heck are you smiling about? And he's like, we're getting closer to the truth. And Levi is questioning if it's even worth it. I liked that exchange. I'm really looking forward to what I think is going to be more time with Levi in the next season. I'm hoping he's going to be healed up enough that we see more of it. I really don't think we're going to get answers anytime soon, to be honest. I think we might start seeing more with the other side, the Titans that seem to have some semblance of control over their Titan forms, but don't have control over their purpose, I'll say. I don't really know. I think we're going to get more, obviously, with the Beast Titan, but I don't think we're going to get answers till pretty much the very end of season 4. I don't think I'm going to know anything or learn anything. But hey, I could be wrong. Maybe they'll throw a ton of information out, and then it's just going to be a bloodbath until the end. Who knows? But I have very much enjoyed this season. Continues to be building into an absolute new favorite, which is really exciting. I'm loving it. And as always, of course, if you are a veteran viewer and you've seen this, feel free to, laugh at the theories I'm throwing out there, or to make fun of me for getting so excited about stuff that I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm onto something. And it's like, well, yeah, that one's pretty obvious, But I'm trying so hard to avoid spoilers, so I'm kind of just shying away from seeing too much. But I really have loved how clueless and confused I have been. I can't remember the last time I felt like this about anything. When was the last time I was this at a loss? I don't know, but it's great, and I love it, and I now crave more things like this. I'm just rambling on now about how much I've enjoyed this. This was great. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you again for more Attack on Titan content soon. Bye.
Hey, bud. I can't watch Attack on Titan because I'm dog sitting you. Big stretch. Yeah, I'll flop down. You wouldn't be this relaxed if you were watching this show. Because it's stressful. Dutton. Are you even listening? No? Okay.